My name's Fred McNeil, and you're watching QAC TV. The name of the show is Veteran Stories. Each week we have a different veteran come on and share with you their very interesting military experiences. This time I'm delighted to have Pete Abbott. Pete, thanks a million for being with us.
Thank you, Fred.
We've had a delightful hour talking before the show. I wish I could tell all the great stories you told. Pete, just to start off with, you had a distinguished Navy career, but let's go back before that.
Okay.
Born and raised where?
Born in Pasadena, California.
Okay.
Long time ago, 1936.
All right, now look at, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mother and father, both Southern Californians. Ended up living in Westwood area, West Los Angeles.
And I get it, you told me one of your neighbors was
John Wooden and his
famous
wife and
basketball
family.
coach?
Yes.
And you were buddies with one of his children, I think?
Well, Jim Wooden, the son, was born about the same time I was.
Okay.
And my mother and John Wooden were born in the same year, 1910.
So it was a natural...
The Woodens had come from Indiana, and he had been a coach early in his career, and he'd gotten a job at UCLA, which was great for the school because eventually he won 11 consecutive national championships. So I was the beneficiary of having John Wooden and all that notoriety and
nothing wrong with
fame.
Now, people, this show is about you, but let's just take a minute or two. This beautiful statue, why don't you explain how that got in the Abbott family?
Well, my father was the son of a photographer who actually was Frank Buck's photographer on all of the trips that Buck took collecting animals for the circuses and the zoos all over. He started the first motion picture studio in California in 1912, and it was a failure. But he had a friend by the name of Darryl Zanuck who ran 20th Century Fox. And so my grandfather was brought to L.A. by Zanuck, given a job, and he brought my father, his only child, son, Bill Abbott, with him. So my dad comes to L.A. My grandfather has a heart attack early in his life and eventually died a month before I was born and barely made 60. But my dad was left with the situation of having to take care of his mother and his father who was ill. Zanuck gave my dad a job when he was in high school in Hollywood High. Film loader, camera carrier, guy out in the desert.
Just to help the family out,
cameras are, making movies about the cowboys and Indians out in the desert. Well, when my grandfather died, my dad had a choice. He had a scholarship to go to Caltech because he was a bright guy, and he could work and take care of his mom. And he, unfortunately, at that time, wasn't able to take advantage of his scholarship, so he went to work full-time
in the movie
20th Century Fox, 1926, 2 years before sound. Grows his career in the photography side of it. He was a cameraman. He was second cameraman, first cameraman.
Worked his way up.
Very, very close to being made a director of photography, which was the title line you'd get on the lead into a movie. All the directors get listed, and the director of cinematography is the guy who's the cameraman. Well, there was a guy at the studio named Fred Surson who realized that the movies were moving along technologically, and you had miniatures, and you had artwork, and you had all kinds of multiple photography stuff. And so he put together a department at 20th Century Fox called the Surson Department, which integrated all these various skills and talents. And it became the Special Photographic Effects Department. So special effects, there you go. This is my father's Oscar for being the special effects director. He succeeded Fred Surson 25 years prior to retiring at 20th Century Fox. So if you look back at movies from the early mid-50s on to the 70s, you'll find every 20th Century Fox movie lists the special photographic effects, L.B. Abbott. Well, that's my dad, Lenwood Ballard Abbott. So this is one of 4 Oscars that he won. Show me the other one.
I think you have another. Didn't you bring another?
Well, I brought another statue, but this is one of his 4 Emmys he got for television work.
So Academy Award, Emmy, not a bad resume.
Not a bad. As far as I know, other than Edie Head, who has won more
than anybody,
set design, she's a clothing gal.
Sure.
Costume maker. I think my dad had the most combined
anybody else in the
awards
movie
at one time.
Now, these on the mantle at your house all the time? Or locked up?
No, they're actually in the custody of children and grandchildren.
Oh, great.
They're
passed
spread.
them on.
Yeah, I have one of each, and they're off
Okay.
in the hands of.
Well, we'll do another show on your dad on these, but this
Yeah.
is a veteran story. Now, okay, you're in California, and then UCLA. Tell me about UCLA.
Well, I went to UCLA and started in 1954, and I had lived in Los Angeles, gone to school in Beverly Hills, and then at the end of my junior high school, put some pressure on my folks to be able to go off to New Mexico
Sure.
Military Institute
Okay.
because some of my older friends had gone there, and it sounded like a great deal.
Place to be.
Get away from LA and
Sure.
get all boys school, and pretty tough environment.
Right.
So I went and I graduated and I applied for a Navy scholarship.
NROTC.
Yes, an ROTC scholarship. And I asked to go to UCLA if I got accepted. And fortunately, all the stars aligned and I got to
It
come.
all worked out. And
So
you were
I came
football
home.
player- I'm sorry,
Yeah, I
you're a
played
football
football
player.
and boxed. I had 55
Out of
fights.
athletics.
Fought and ran the mile and threw the shot put and did a lot of stuff.
did it
in
all.
high school. Yeah,
You did
it was
it all.
kind of fun. Didn't always win everything, but
But you enjoyed your athletics when you
I won 50 of my 55 fights.
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
only remember the 5 I
There's a
lost.
lot of pro boxers who like to have that record. Nothing wrong with that, Pete.
Yeah, we had a really good coach who was our high school and college. So this was a 4-year college and 3-year high school together down in New Mexico. So most of the guys that grew me up were battlefield commission guys out of the Korean War.
These are tough guys.
Yeah, they were in their middle to late 20s, and I was 15 years old, and I learned what it was like to shave with a straight razor under a bucket without any shaving
They
soap
trained
and
you
water.
right,
Yeah,
didn't they?
that's
So, Pete, the stars work out.
Yeah.
You go to
Go to
UCLA.
UCLA.
Go to UCLA. NROTC scholarship.
NROTC scholarship, summer cruises to Europe, to South America, great times on a destroyer and a cruiser as a young midshipman.
And they're training you to make
Yeah, all that
naval
good
officer.
stuff,
Yeah.
and 4 years of academic stuff from weapons and engineering and navigation and history and all that kind of stuff. So,
Now we're gonna have you back because we're gonna do a whole show just on
Yeah.
you and UCLA's stories. But so you're at UCLA. What was your major?
I was a production management. I have a BS in business administration from UCLA with a major in production management.
Okay, so you graduate from UCLA. You're commissioned on graduation.
I got a degree at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
I got a commission at 12 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, I checked aboard my first ship in Long Beach.
They didn't fool around, did they?
They were one day from deploying for 6 months to the Far East.
And what year was this?
1959.
59. Okay, so graduation, commission. You're in the Navy now.
I'm in the Navy now. 3 hours later, I check aboard the ship, sign on.
You're a lieutenant?
No,
JJ?
I was an ensign, brand new.
Okay. I'm sorry. Below. Yes, okay.
One striper, brand new, fresh caught, varnish still on.
Wet behind the ears.
Yeah. So I get on the ship. The next morning, we're underway for the Far East. And the captain says, "Did you learn how to drive a ship when you were in school, kid?" And I said, "Well, I think I can do that. I'd had a little ship handling practice." And he says, "Well, you got the deck.
Get on deck.
You got the thing. Drive it out of the
24
harbor."
hours.
Yeah,
This is all in
it's a-
24 hours. Lord.
So here I am.
And that's what they did with the ensigns. They put you right in the bridge.
And I got the con. I'm driving the thing out of Long Beach Harbor,
You're
along
kidding
with
me.
3 other destroyers in a division of 4. We're headed to Hawaii and then to Guam and then to the Philippines.
On the
and then
job
out
training. Is that what they call it?
OJT, you better believe it.
Oh, Lord,
So I
okay.
spent 36 months on that ship, and I was the CIC officer, the communications officer, and then the department head as the operations officer.
They didn't fool around, did they?
No, I was very fortunate.
Okay.
And the skipper I worked for 2 years on there was a great guy, been a submarine captain, Naval Academy graduate, Chuck Stastny. He's no longer with us, but is the most influential guy in my career.
It's nice to have a good mentor early in
Yeah.
any
30
career.
years later, 9 of the 11 officers in that wardroom who are still living were at a reunion for this
This guy.
wardroom.
So this guy
Nobody
was-
stayed in the Navy under the previous CO.
Okay.
Every one of the guys who was a junior officer who had an option to stay in the Navy in that wardroom stayed in.
Made a career.
Yes.
He was that good.
Yeah, he was that good.
So you're on. So where was you stayed on there 3 years? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? 3
Then
years.
I went to Stanford and taught for 2 years in the Navy
In the
ROTC
Navy.
program.
Okay, so you
I was
actually-
associate professor of naval science. I taught
And that was a
the
good gig, wasn't it?
freshman class. It was a great gig.
Yeah.
I taught naval orientation and naval history to the incoming freshman students in the program.
Okay.
And that was a very good experience.
What rank then? At that, are you?
I just made lieutenant.
Okay.
At the
So you're
end,
full
4 year, it
lieutenant.
was a 4-year marked promotion.
All right.
So I'm trying to get out of the Navy to go back to graduate
Oh, you
school,
think about
and
getting
I
out?
was
Okay.
going to go back to LA and go to UCLA and get my master's in business.
Yeah.
And the guy I worked for didn't send my resignation letter into Washington, so
A good way to keep you in the service.
I finally ended up calling the bureau and saying, what's going on with my paperwork? I got to move my household goods and all this. He says, we don't have anything on record of you wanting to get out, and I'm really mad at you. And he starts swearing at me on
Really?
the phone. And maybe I shouldn't say that.
No, it's okay. Oh, so the guy didn't process the paperwork.
No,
so they just kept you active.
He went over and got me a command job, a minesweeper,
So that was your next.
home ported in Japan.
You think you're going to graduate school?
I'm going to LA with.
Oh Lord.
No,
the
no.
military's great.
I have a wife, a 3-month-old baby, 2 days of travel. We back into the train station in Sasebo, Japan, after air, rail. We
get over there.
I meet the guy that I'm going to relieve as the skipper, and he drags me into the back of the old train station. It's midnight.
Okay.
We're exhausted.
Sure.
He whispers in my ear, he says, Pete, you can't tell your wife, but we're leaving Monday and we're not coming
Lord.
back.
This woman's just traveled halfway around the world.
17 pieces of hand luggage and a 3-month-old, and we don't have a place to live. There's no quarters for us. We're in a one-room, non-air conditioned place in the officers' club. Monday morning, I take a suitcase down to the boats, and we're going out for an engineering exercise, and 7 months later, we pulled back in. And we couldn't tell them we were going because we were the first guys up the rivers in Vietnam.
Okay, you
our
were telling me about
minesweeping squadron,
yes.
and we. So
your wife found the plane. I mean,
she ended up living with another one of the wives who was. They knew they had orders, so we took their house in Japanese housing. Well, we get back after 7 months. We're told we're going to be home a year. 5 weeks later,
they ship you out again.
Same deal. 7 more months.
The woman's a saint.
She's no longer my wife, but that's another story.
The military, you have to remain flexible.
You have to be flexible.
Okay, so you got the minesweeper, and now that was we were talking off here. Interesting duty. What was your assignment? You're in Vietnam, cleaning up the.
Well, the minesweepers, because of their ability to use high-frequency sonar to detect objects on the bottom or in space, floating mines or bottom mines, stuff, they're excellent to use in terms of harbor clearance, finding sunken ships.
We used to get all the junk off the bottom.
Clear out. If you think about Cam Ranh Bay, which is a major logistics facility in Vietnam, had a long run-in channel, and it needed to be deepened to 50 feet to accommodate the biggest merchant ships in and out.
Sure.
Well, Admiral Halsey's bomber planes in 45 had sunk a Japanese ship right in the middle of the channel, 500 yards to seaward of the mouth of the harbor.
Yeah.
And it was just right up against the surface. I mean, there had only been like 6 or 8 feet of clearance. So you couldn't get a big ship in that harbor around it. So what we had to do was send divers down, put explosive charges on those on the ship and blow it down, literally drop it to a depth of 50 feet.
So the ships could get
So the minesweepers would go out and find these obstacles and mark them with buoys and help the divers and provide that kind of support stuff. That's what we did. And we did that at every major port starting from the Saigon River mouth for 7 months up the coast.
Heading north.
Yes.
Heading north.
Heading north. Now this is 1964.
Okay, now this is, and for those who are sitting here, before Vietnam got to be a real hot item, but we knew something was going to happen. Okay.
Yes.
So what was the next? So you stayed, where was next?
Well, we hopped up the coast.
Okay.
Port after port
Cleaning
after
these
port.
harbors
And we got to Da Nang, which was the farthest north city. Before you got to the 17th parallel, and the next thing was North Vietnam.
How often did you get to see your wife and child?
I was home for 5 weeks in the first 15 months of that tour.
Okay.
But at the end of the second tour, I broke a leg in the Philippines, and we haven't shared this story, but I ended up 11 months in with cast for 7 months and 4 months after cast therapy and all that. And I finally got restored to active duty.
Oh, they actually took you off and
yeah,
get you healthy.
I waved my ship goodbye from Subic Bay as it was headed back to Vietnam, and my 9-hour surgery had been yesterday, and my executive officer took the ship and was.
He's got the ship. You've got to get this leg fixed.
Yeah.
How'd you break your leg? Just a freak accident?
In a baseball game.
Oh, in a baseball game.
Yeah,
serving your country at shortstop. All right. Yeah, some of those Navy softball games are combat.
Well, I told you I had a knee injury in high school.
Football, correct.
And I had to keep my scholarship, so I gave up football in college. But when I was at Stanford, I was playing a volleyball game, and I went up under ball.
Are you teaching?
Yeah, and we had a volleyball court in the back of our teaching building.
Right.
So I got under a ball to pop it up, and I came up, but my leg was bent, and it wouldn't do that. So they hauled me off to the Oakland Naval Hospital that day, and they removed the cartilage, which had finally torn through from the original injuries back in high school and early college. So I hurriedly healed up, 30 days in the hospital, and then got on an airplane and went to Japan to take command of the ship, and I was still pretty gimpy.
You're hurting. You're hurting.
But the second time we were down for the second 7-month cruise, my good buddy, one of the other skippers, said, "You got to play on your ship's softball team. We're going to play a game against each other."
Oh,
so I go out in center field figuring this is the safest place to be.
Can't get too
Guy
much
hits a ball over second base. I take one step, hit a chuck hole, hyperextend the leg, tibial plateau fracture, gone.
Not good.
5 hours on a gurney laying in a hospital before somebody realized I was there, and then finally they had to go get the orthopedic surgeon who was
You're in pain.
getting getting on an airplane going home to the States.
He had to do surgery before they let the
Had
guy
to go
go.
getting back to Subic and do this
I'm
operation.
staying away from you, Pete. I think there's trouble here.
He had never done one of these tibial plateau fractures.
And
So
you're the guinea pig.
for 9 hours, Dr. Stryker, who you may have heard of, Stryker Medical, Stryker Stretchers, the guy who did Teddy Kennedy's back.
That's it.
Yeah, Stryker, who's the head orthopedic surgeon in the Navy, is in San Diego on the phone talking to Dr. Jerry Dill, who's got the scalpels in his hand.
Telling him what to do.
Talked him through the operation to do my knee. So anyway, I won't get you.
Tough baseball game.
Yeah, tough baseball game. So,
okay, so now where'd they put you next when you recovered?
well, I went to a couple of months. I taught at the Fleet Air Defense Center in San Diego, kind of a holding.
And what rank are you at this
point?
point?
Lieutenant.
Okay, lieutenant.
So lieutenant. And some commodore of a destroyer division in San Diego was losing his ops officer, and he didn't have a replacement for him. And somebody said, "Well, there's a guy up that
get this guy up."
Yeah, he wants to go back to sea. He's not happy here." So I get a call from him, and I said, "You better take care of dealing with the bureau because they don't like me very much." So he did.
He got you.
He fronted the effort and got me a set of orders to join him, and I left and went on another 7-month deployment to back running 4 destroyers.
Okay.
And as we finished that tour, we got another 4 ships added to our group, so we actually became a squadron.
Pretty big-sized group, yes.
And I kept my job as the squadron operations officer. I was a chief of staff to the Commodore and had 4 or 5 staff enlisted people, and we administered 8 ships.
Keeping everything they needed and keeping good shape.
And we were the operational guys. So the fellow that I worked for was a very aggressive man and knew the politics of the game, and when we were in Vietnam, he would make sure we got the good jobs. We ran the gun line. I was at one point sitting in a radio shack and on a little old destroyer tasking 17 ships, including a battleship, 4 cruisers, and 12.
A lot of responsibility.
12 destroyers with the entire gunfire support system around all 4 corps of Vietnam, and doing it off of a 60 word a minute.
So when these Marines or whatever needed fire support, you were the guy?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, what years were these people?
66, 67.
Okay, so this is when the big American build-up, LBJ's got
we did
coming.
4 major amphibious assaults, all kinds of stuff. It was a very exciting
I bet it
tour.
was. For a naval officer, how about promotions?
No, I was not promoted. I was still a lieutenant.
Okay.
And still had a way to go.
That was a lot of work for a lieutenant, a lot of responsibility,
Well,
right?
it was. It was a fascinating job. When we came back from that deployment, we had a couple ideas because we were losing pilots. We couldn't go get them. We couldn't recover them. We knew where they were, but we couldn't get to them. we developed a system putting cameras and a remote-operated sling on a drone that was designed to deliver helicopter-delivered ordnance against submarines. We made it a people recovery device and equipped 60 destroyers with them, so they could go in and pick up pilots and
get these guys out of there.
that chair down through the canopy of the jungle and pick the guy up before he got snatched.
How many guys you rescued doing that?
A lot.
I bet you did.
Yeah, it was very good. And I was fortunate to be the development officer on that project.
You in that project?
Yep.
So before that, they went down and...
Yeah, the North Vietnamese got them, or the Viet Cong.
So, POWs or whatever.
But it also was a wonderful gunfire spotting device because we had remote television cameras on that. Yeah, we could watch them and fly the drone around and land it back on the destroyer.
I mean, a lot of people were amazed. I was an Army guy in Vietnam. The commitment by the Navy. I mean, besides, we all see the pictures of the destroyers shooting, but certainly these air-sea rescue things, you say, cleaning out harbors. I mean, it was a major commitment.
We did a lot of good stuff over there. We did a lot of very constructive work, and of course, it was a kind of a young guy's war.
Yeah, sure.
The inshore war was small ships, small units, lower level rank people doing all that stuff. I was a lieutenant for all that stuff.
You're running a major military operation as a lieutenant.
And the second half of that assignment, once we got back to the States, we got committed to a very, very interesting anti-submarine warfare, high-tech series of tests, sea trials, where we were developing mechanisms where we could get the carriers close to the Soviet Union to conduct full-scale assaults, if need be, in combat situations without being detected, and with being able to thwart their submarines and do a lot of defensive stuff.
Some good stuff. You had practical war experience,
there you go.
And you're in the R&D stage here with the submarines.
Yeah, I was assigned to a study group that actually developed the anti-submarine warfare capabilities of the S-3, which was a carrier aircraft.
And this is a protected
And I was
carriers.
a surface guy on I input the things that were important from the ship guy's point of view, working with this airplane in coordinated anti-submarine warfare operations. So that was fun.
I was going to say, as a young guy, kind of an interesting career, right?
Yeah. Well, it got better.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah, at the end of that tour, the phone rang, and the guy in Washington, this detailer, this mystical guy that runs your career.
Sure.
You don't know him, you're not. He knows where you're going.
Just a phone call.
He calls me and he says, I got a surprise for you.
Uh-oh, where are you going next?
I said, where am I going? He says, you're going to England.
All right.
I said, I don't want to go to a cruiser. I don't want to be on a big ship. I'm a minesweeper destroyer sailor. Right. He says, no, not the England, you fool. England, the country. You're So I said, oh, that's a different deal.
That's a good
He said, yeah, we got a job for you in England. We're going to send you to HMS Dryad, the School of Navigation and Air Defense, and you're going to be the exchange officer for one of their guys coming over and going to our air defense school, and you're going to teach the course to all those Royal Navy and Commonwealth guys who are getting their specializations as navigators or direction officers.
That's good. Where in England?
Just north of Portsmouth, just over the Portsdown Hills.
So that would have been good duty, right?
It was 1967.
Okay.
The war is going
Vietnam
on.
is
I'm headed for UK for 2 years and 4 months.
2 years of duty. Oh, Lord, good. Now, Pete, so where do we, again, continue.
Well, I told you my life changed.
Right.
I ended a marriage there, but probably the best thing that ever happened to me was that I met Dorothea, who is right here.
Okay.
She was a Wren serving there. I met her.
Again, hold her up. Hold her picture up.
Yeah.
Right to that camera if you can.
Right. That's the two of us at the White Cliffs of Dover a couple of years ago, spending time with family. My godson's wedding was in this area, and he was the son of a pair of twins born to the couple who lived next door to me at HMS Dryad.
Okay, all right.
So anyway,
this is women's.
This is Women's Royal Navy Service,
okay.
WRNS. Right. So she was a Wren, and we got married 43 years ago and have made it stick.
Good for you.
It's been really good.
Yeah.
This is
a daughter.
Our only child, only one of this marriage, Sarah, That's her at 3 and Dad at whatever age. I don't know.
Okay, that's all right.
Anyway, she came along after 10 years of being married, and we're delighted because she and I are now business partners in North
Carolina.
Let's
do two things. People, we're going to get you back for another. Look, let's put your military career on a little pause, because what we'll do, we're going to do another show and continue with England, all right? But let's do this. There's two other things we want to talk about. We want to talk about your daughter and the business, but more importantly, tell me about this wonderful raffle you have coming up.
Okay, let's transition from 1979, retired from the Navy. Went to work at Booz Allen down in Washington as a consultant, did some time on a Saudi Arabian Navy procurement program. 4 years later, I was recruited to a small executive search firm in Annapolis and became the fourth person in the door. Built that up to about 12 people, and eventually in 1988 started my own executive search firm. So now we're into business. This is the business career.
Okay.
2 companies I ran for a long time. Now we're going to talk about the fishing side of my life. I began to start fishing again when my Navy career ended.
Okay.
And I was able to actually be someplace and have time. So I ended up buying a series of boats over the years. The last one for 13 years, I owned a 31-foot boat that we repowered with diesels, and we could go to the ocean and chase tuna and fish the bay. It was a great boat. But it all happened back in 2001 when I bought that boat. I joined the Maryland Saltwater Sport Fishing Association, the MSSA.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about it, but it is the voice of the recreational saltwater angler in Maryland. We have 14 chapters, about 7,000 members.
Yeah.
And each of the organization's divided up into these 14 chapters, and they're geographically spread around the state. One is up in Pennsylvania, one in D.C., but I ended up in the Annapolis chapter. I lived in Annapolis, so we stayed in Annapolis after I got out of the Navy. First year, I just kind of volunteered to do what I could. The second year, I was vice president of the chapter.
That's how a good man.
And the third year, I took over as the president, which put me not only running the 650-person operation in Annapolis, but a board seat on the MSSA board.
All right.
And I was a member of a 25-man board there. Ultimately, served 10 years in and out of the presidency and on the main board.
It kept you busy.
In 2011, or late 2010, the guy who was running the Scholarship Foundation, who had run it since its founding in 1995, needed a relief.
Okay.
And I stepped out of the chapter management, and he said to me, "You got to take this thing over." And I looked at it and I said, well, it's another challenge.
Okay.
It's a business. It's a 501c3. It's an incorporated entity. It's a tax deductible. I can grant tax exemption to people who make donations to us. We're a fully registered charity. And our mission is to educate young people in marine sciences, natural resources management, environmental sciences, so that they will come back here and devote their careers to helping sustain the resources which us fishermen have to have if we're going to enjoy ourselves. If there's no fish and the water's so bad that the fish can't live here, it's all on us. It's our fault.
Now, Pete, the raffle, is it coming up? Am I close or what?
We are in the throes of selling tickets for this year's Sportsman's Raffle. And our grand prize is a $1,000 gift certificate from Dave Tolbert, who is the owner of Island Tackle Outfitters on Kent Island. They're in the same building there with the Safeway right on the corner. Sure. We've been very fortunate that each year one of the local tackle shops has stepped up to be our principal sponsor. But there are over 40 prizes to be won in this raffle. I have over 16 charter trips, everything from a
all types of good stuff.
Catfishing trip to a tuna fishing trip in Ocean City, and a lot of bay stuff.
So. Now, Pete, if they want these tickets, how do we get them?
Okay, you got to come to me.
Okay, and how would they contact you?
All right, you can reach me by phone.
Okay, you can give that number.
443-871-5342.
Okay.
It's my cell phone. You can reach me by email, ABBOTTGRU.
Okay, and
at AOL.com.
And that's buying a raffle ticket, which helps.
These tickets sell for $5 a piece, or 5 for $20. You have a chance in this drawing, if you buy more than one ticket, to win more than one prize.
Okay.
All of your other tickets stay in the drum until we go through the entire prize list.
Prizes.
All 40. Well, right now that's 41 prizes long, and it gets added to every week. So
nothing wrong with that.
No.
And this helps young people get scholarships, so they'll come back and protect our bay and protect our fishing area.
I can say that this is our brochure for the Scholarship Foundation. It talks about who we are and what we do, gives various ways to donate, and I really want to get this website into your head.
Sure, say it again.
www.mssascholarships.org. This information in the brochure is replicated in the website, plus there is a donation button. You can donate by PayPal using a credit card, and you'll learn a little bit about what we do and the history of the 109 students that we've supported since we started, and almost $300,000 of scholarships awarded.
Good stuff. Now, Pete, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to promise the audience, because they're all going to get mad at me. We've got a Naval Academy career to talk about as you were teaching there.
Yeah.
We've got a business career with your daughter, businesses you've started. So we're going to call this part one, right? And I promise the audience we'll schedule again, all right?
Thank you very much.
For Veteran Stories, because I think we could go all day between Academy Awards, UCLA football, Minesweepers, whatever. But look, thank you for serving. Okay?
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing this. And I promise
My
the
pleasure.
audience, we're going to have Pete Abbott back and Veteran Stories, because this man has more good stories than I think I've run into in the last couple of years.
Well, I hope so. I enjoyed 20 of the best years of my life in uniform.
Well, good. And thank you again for serving.
The government and the public of this country have treated me very well. You don't get a Harvard education and command
MBA
opportunity.
from Harvard's not bad, is it?
No, that was the frosting on the cake, but the chance to command 2 warships and 2 wonderful crews of
Pretty
American
amazing experience.
patriot young guys, and do that before you're 40, this doesn't get any better than
That's
that.
a pretty good looking resume.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, let us stop for now. My name's Fred McNear. You're watching QAC TV, watching Veteran Stories. My time's up. Thank you for your time, and we're going to see you next time.